Make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button right now to see much more content just like this.
The first thing Caleb Reed heard was the mare screaming. Not the fire alarm from the foaling barn. Not the crack of dry pine exploding beyond the fence line. Not even Claire Ward shouting his name through the smoke. It was the mare. She was trapped inside the western stall, kicking at the boards while orange light rolled across the rafters above her. Smoke pressed down from the ceiling in heavy black waves, swallowing the hanging lamps one by one. Somewhere behind the barn, wind drove sparks through the pasture like a swarm of red insects. Caleb dropped the halter in his hand and ran. "Claire!" No answer. He pulled his shirt over his mouth and crossed the barn aisle, keeping low as heat tightened the skin across his face. The floor was already slick from a broken water line. A terrified yearling slammed its shoulder against a gate, and Caleb reached through the bars long enough to throw the latch. "Go!" The horse bolted past him into the smoke. Then he heard Claire cough. The sound came from the foaling room at the far end of the barn. Caleb forced his way toward it, while burning straw fell from the loft in glowing pieces. He found Claire on her knees beside a newborn foal. The animal had collapsed against the wall, its thin legs tangled beneath it. Claire's hair was singed along one side. Blood ran from a cut above her eyebrow. She looked up at Caleb as if she had been waiting for him and no one else. "I can't lift her. The roof's coming down. I'm not leaving her." Caleb grabbed Claire by the shoulders. "You're leaving now." Her eyes filled with anger and terror. "Caleb!" A beam cracked above them. He shoved Claire beneath a low wooden feeding shelf, just as part of the ceiling crashed into the aisle. Fire leaped across the broken boards. The mare in the western stall screamed again, and this time Caleb heard something worse beneath it. The roof supports were failing. Claire clutched the foal's neck. "Please." Caleb stared at the flames blocking the main door. He had seconds, maybe less. He could drag Claire through the side opening. He could leave the foal. He could make the kind of choice people called reasonable afterward. Instead, he wrapped the animal in a wool birthing blanket, pulled it across his shoulders and shouted, "Stay behind me." They crawled through the tack room while sparks fell around them. Caleb kicked open the rear door, but the fire had already crossed the path to the paddock. Smoke rolled over the ground, so thick he could barely see the fence. Claire stumbled. Caleb caught her with one arm and held the foal against his chest with the other. Then a gunshot cracked across the pasture. Someone was firing into the air to guide them. A second shot came from the creek road. Caleb turned toward the sound. "Follow me." They ran blind through the smoke. The newborn foal barely moved in Caleb's arms. Claire coughed so hard she dropped to one knee, and Caleb dragged her upright. Heat rushed across his back. The barn windows burst behind them in a line of sharp explosions. Another gunshot. Closer now. They reached the shallow ditch beside Freedom Creek just as the foaling barn roof collapsed. The sound rolled across the ranch like thunder. Caleb pushed Claire down into the muddy water and lay over her, shielding both her and the foal as burning debris swept across the grass. For several seconds, the world became heat, smoke, and noise. Then the wind shifted. Caleb raised his head. Through the haze, he saw blue lights moving along the creek road. Volunteer fire trucks bounced across the cattle guard. Men shouted, hoses uncoiled. Somewhere beyond the smoke, Evelyn Ward was calling for her daughter. Claire lifted her face from the mud. "You came back for me." Caleb looked toward the burning barn. "I was already there." "No." Her voice broke. "You had gotten out. I saw you." He said nothing. Claire held his sleeve with both hands, as though the fire might still take him. You came back. Before Caleb could answer, Sheriff Wade Larkin emerged from the smoke with a wet bandana tied over his mouth. His silver hair was covered in ash. He pointed 2 firefighters toward Claire, then looked at Caleb. For one brief moment, relief crossed the sheriff's face. Then his eyes dropped to the red plastic fuel can lying beside the creek road. Caleb followed his gaze. The can belonged to him. His initials were painted in black across the side. CR Sheriff Larkin stared at the can, then at the burning barn behind Caleb. And something changed in his expression. By sunrise, half of Madison County believed Caleb Reed had saved Claire Ward. The other half believed he had nearly killed her. The fire burned until dawn. It destroyed the Foaling barn, 2 equipment sheds, 40 acres of winter pasture, and nearly every record Evelyn Ward had kept from the last 28 years. 3 horses died before firefighters could reach them. 6 others suffered burns. The mare Caleb had heard screaming survived, though no one could explain how she escaped the western stall after the roof began to fall. Caleb spent the night treating injured horses beneath portable lights, while firefighters soaked the smoking earth. His hands blistered. His lungs burned. Twice the paramedics told him to sit down. He ignored them. Claire was taken to the hospital in Jackson with smoke inhalation, a deep cut above her eye, and burns across her left forearm. The newborn foal survived. Someone placed the tiny animal in the old training barn beside a calm gray mare that had lost her own colt the previous spring. Evelyn stayed near Caleb until the sky began to pale. She was 61, tall and spare, with iron gray hair braided down her back. Her family had raised Tennessee walking horses on Freedom Creek Ranch since her grandfather bought the first 80 acres after returning from France in 1919. Evelyn had spent her whole life protecting the place. By dawn, she looked older than Caleb had ever seen her. "They found your gas can," she said. Caleb continued wrapping the burned leg of a chestnut gelding. "I heard. Wade says it was near the south fence. I heard that too." Evelyn watched his hands. "Was it yours?" "Yes." She swallowed. Caleb finished the bandage, tied it off, and stood. "I keep it in the bed of my truck." "Where was your truck?" "By the training ring." "Was the can there when you came back from town?" "I didn't check." Evelyn looked toward the smoking ruins. "They're saying the fire started near the creek road." "That's what they're saying." "And somebody saw your truck out there." Caleb's face remained still, but something tightened behind his eyes. "Who?" "Wade wouldn't tell me." "Did he tell you whether they saw me driving it?" "No." The gelding shifted nervously between them. Evelyn reached for the lead rope, then stopped. "I need you to tell me the truth." Caleb looked at her. The words cut deeper than she seemed to understand. He had worked for Evelyn for 7 years. He had slept in the bunkhouse through floods, freezes, and one tornado that took the roof off the old hay shed. He had delivered foals in the middle of the night, trained horses no one else could touch, and stood beside Evelyn when her husband died of pancreatic cancer. He had never lied to her, not once. "I did not start that fire." Evelyn closed her eyes for a moment. "All right." Caleb waited. She opened them again. "That's all I needed." But it was not all she needed. He could see it in the way she looked past him toward the place where his truck sat beneath a pecan tree. He could hear it in the pause before she spoke again. "Wade wants you to come to the station." "Am I under arrest?" "He says no." "That means not yet." Caleb, I'll go. He removed his work gloves. His palms were raw beneath them. Evelyn stepped closer. You saved my daughter. Yes, ma'am. She told the paramedic you went back into the barn. Caleb said nothing. I won't forget that. The wind moved ash across the pasture. Caleb looked toward the road, where Sheriff Larkin stood beside a county cruiser, speaking to 2 fire investigators. Other people will. At 8 that morning, Caleb rode to the sheriff's station in the back seat of Wade Larkin's cruiser. He was not handcuffed. That detail traveled around town almost as quickly as everything else. Freedom Creek Ranch sat 12 miles north of Jackson, Mississippi. Beyond a stretch of soybean fields and pine woods were old family cemeteries hid behind rusted fences, and roads carried names no map could fully explain. The nearest town, Bellwether, had a courthouse square, 2 churches facing each other across Main Street, a hardware store, and a diner where information moved faster than coffee. By the time Wade parked outside the station, 3 people were standing across the street pretending not to watch. Caleb noticed them. Wade did too. They're scared, the sheriff said. Caleb opened the car door. Of what? The fire. That's not what they're looking at. Wade removed his sunglasses. For more than 30 years, he had been the law in Bellwether. His father had held the badge before him. His grandfather had served as county supervisor. People called him sheriff, even at church dinners and Little League games. He carried authority the way some men carried an old injury, so long and so naturally that no one remembered what he had been before it. Don't make this harder than it is, Wade said. Caleb looked back at him. You already decided what it is? I said don't make it harder. Inside, Deputy Travis Cole led Caleb to an interview room. Travis was 34, broad-shouldered, and always looked uncomfortable in his uniform. He had grown up 3 farms away from Freedom Creek. As a boy, he had been afraid of horses until Caleb helped him mount a patient old gelding at a county fair. Now he avoided Caleb's eyes. Wade entered carrying a folder and a paper cup of coffee. Where were you yesterday between 4 and 5:30? Jackson Feed and Seed. Anyone see you? The cashier, 2 delivery drivers, maybe more. When did you return to the ranch? Around 5:40. What did you do? Unloaded mineral blocks and feed. Checked the south pasture. Went to the training barn. Why check the south pasture? One of the yearlings had been favoring his right leg. Did you drive out there? No. Walk? Yes. Near the creek road, near enough to see it. Did you have your fuel can? No. Wade folded his hands. Caleb, your truck was seen on that road at 5:15. I was in Jackson. Your truck. Who saw it? I'm asking questions. And I'm answering them. You've had disagreements with Mrs. Ward. Everyone who works with horses has disagreements. You argued with her 3 days ago. About a mare. About money. Caleb leaned back. So that was where this was going. Evelyn had decided to sell a promising young mare named Magnolia Rose to cover tax debt and repairs to the east stable. Caleb believed the mare was not ready. Evelyn said the ranch could not afford patience. They had raised their voices. The whole barn heard. She was selling a horse too early, Caleb said. She owed you back pay. She owed everyone back pay. You threatened to leave. I said I would take another job if she kept ignoring what the horses needed. Wade opened the folder. Inside were photographs of the fuel can, blackened grass beside the creek road, and the burned remains of a fence post. Another photograph showed the impression of a boot print in wet soil. Wade placed it on the table. Caleb recognized the tread. It matched his work boots. "Those are common boots," Caleb said. "They're your size. So are 1,000 others in the county. Your fuel can, your truck, your boot print, your argument with Mrs. Ward. And I was in Jackson until 5:20, according to the cashier." Caleb stared at him. "You already spoke to her." "I'm doing my job. The feed store is 35 minutes from the ranch. 27 if a man drives fast. My truck won't go fast." Wade's expression did not change. Travis shifted against the wall. Caleb turned to him. "You know that truck?" Travis looked down. Wade closed the folder. "No one's charging you today." "Then I'm leaving. I would advise you not to leave the county." Caleb stood. Wade remained seated. "One more thing," the sheriff said. Caleb paused at the door. "Claire says she didn't see anyone else near the barn. She was choking on smoke. She remembers you. She knows me. She remembers your truck on the creek road." Caleb turned slowly. "What?" Wade watched him. "She told the paramedics she saw it before the fire." "That's impossible." "Maybe." Caleb stepped closer to the table. "Did she say she saw me?" "No." "Then why are you saying it like she did?" "Because people let friends borrow trucks. No one borrows mine. Maybe someone took it." "Then find them." Wade rose. "For your own sake, Caleb, don't start accusing people without proof." Caleb looked at the photographs again. Someone had taken his fuel can. Someone had moved his truck. Someone had worn boots like his. And whoever had done it knew exactly where he would be while the fire began. I'm not the one who started accusing. When Caleb returned to Freedom Creek, the ranch gate had been painted. Arsonist. The word stretched across the white boards in red spray paint. 2 deputies stood nearby, taking photographs. Evelyn was scrubbing at the letters with a rag soaked in paint thinner. Her hands shook with anger. Caleb got out of Travis's cruiser before it stopped moving. "You shouldn't touch it," Travis said. "It's evidence." Evelyn kept scrubbing. "The evidence is that cowards know how to buy red paint." Caleb took the rag from her. "I'll handle it." She looked at him. "How did it go?" "They think I did it." No one said that. They didn't have to. Travis stepped from the cruiser. "Caleb, that's not fair." Caleb looked at him. Travis's face reddened. "Sheriff Larkin is following the evidence." "Did you see my truck on the creek road?" "No." "Do you know who did?" Travis hesitated. That was enough. "Who?" "I can't discuss an investigation." Caleb turned back to the gate. Behind him, Evelyn said, "Was it Harlan Pike?" Travis went still. Harlan Pike owned the largest timber company in the county. He also sat on the planning commission and had spent the past year pressuring Evelyn to sell a strip of land along Freedom Creek for a proposed highway connector. Evelyn had refused every offer. Travis looked from her to Caleb. I didn't say anything. "You didn't need to," Evelyn said. He climbed back into the cruiser. Before shutting the door, he lowered his voice. "Be careful who you trust." Then he drove away. Caleb watched the dust settle behind him. Evelyn crossed her arms. That sounded like a warning. It sounded like fear. She looked toward the ruined barn. Harlan has wanted the creek acreage for months. He wants the right of way. He wants money. Same thing to him. Evelyn glanced at the painted gate. You think this is about the highway. I think it's too early to think anything. That's not what your face says. Caleb knelt and began wiping the red paint from the boards. The thinner smeared the word into a pink stain. Evelyn stood beside him in silence. Finally, she said, "Claire asked for you." He stopped wiping. "At the hospital?" "She woke up an hour ago." "How is she?" "Scared. I'll go after I finish here." Evelyn took the rag from his hand. "No, I'll finish." Caleb looked at the half-erased word. Then he looked at her. "She saw my truck." "I know." "You believe her?" "I believe she saw something." "That's not what I asked." Evelyn's jaw tightened. Caleb stood. Behind them, the burned pasture smoked beneath the morning sun. The ranch smelled of wet ash, medicine, and charred pine. Evelyn's voice softened. "I believe you saved her." Again, Caleb heard the words she did not say. He walked toward his truck without answering. At the hospital, Claire looked smaller than she had in the burning barn. Her left arm was wrapped from wrist to elbow. A white bandage covered the cut above her eye. Smoke had roughened her voice until every word sounded painful. She sat beside the window while her mother spoke with a nurse in the hallway. Caleb stopped at the door. Claire looked up. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then she said, "They told me 3 horses died." "Yes." "Which ones?" "Daisy Bell. Major Tom, the little sorrel colt from Tennessee." Claire closed her eyes. Caleb moved to the chair beside her bed. "The others made it. Because of you. Because people came. You came first." He looked at her bandaged arm. "How bad?" "They say it will heal." "That's not what I asked." Claire gave a faint smile. "It hurts." He nodded. Outside the window, traffic moved along the interstate. The ordinary sound felt wrong after the night they had survived. Claire pulled the blanket higher over her knees. "I saw your truck." Caleb's eyes shifted back to her. "Where?" "On the creek road." "When?" "Before the fire, maybe 20 minutes before." "Did you see who was driving?" "No. The sun hit the windshield." "Why were you near the barn?" "Juniper was close to foaling. I wanted to check her." "Did you see anyone else?" Claire hesitated. It was small, barely more than a breath. But Caleb saw it. "Claire." "I don't know." "That's different from no?" She looked at the door. Her mother was still speaking to the nurse. Caleb lowered his voice. "What did you see?" "A man." "Where?" "Near the back fence." "Could you recognize him?" "No." "Was he tall? Short? White? Black?" "I don't know." "You know more than you're saying." Claire's eyes filled. "Please don't." "Don't what?" "Push me." Caleb leaned back. The fear in her face was not fear of him. "Did someone threaten you?" "No." "Claire?" "No." He watched her fingers twist the edge of the blanket. "When I got to the barn," she said, "Juniper was already upset. She kept kicking the wall. I smelled something, but I thought it was fuel from the mower. Then I heard a door close outside." "What door? Maybe a truck." "Did you look?" "I went to the window. I saw someone crossing the pasture." "Who?" "I couldn't see." Caleb waited. Claire's eyes dropped. "And then?" "Then the fire started." "In the barn? Outside first?" "Near the fence?" She nodded. "Did the man see you?" "I don't know." Caleb looked toward the hall. "Did you tell Wade?" Her face tightened. "He said I was confused." "Were you?" "No." "And why didn't you insist?" Claire did not answer. The monitor beside her bed pulsed softly. Caleb stood. Someone moved my truck. I know. How? I don't know. Someone used my fuel can. Her eyes filled again. Caleb stepped closer. Claire, listen to me. Whoever started that fire knew you were in the barn or didn't care. You almost died. I know. So, tell me what you're afraid of. She looked at him then, not as the ranch hand who had taught her to wrap a horse's leg, not as the man who had been at every Christmas dinner since her father died, not even as the man who had carried her through the smoke. She looked at him like someone standing on the edge of a truth too large to survive. Before she could speak, Evelyn entered. Caleb? Something in her voice stopped him. Sheriff Larkin stood behind her. Wade's gaze moved from Caleb to Claire. Am I interrupting? Yes, Caleb said. No, Claire said at the same time. Silence filled the room. Wade stepped inside. I need to ask Ms. Ward a few questions. She needs rest, Evelyn said. It won't take long. Caleb looked at Claire. Her face had gone pale. He understood then that whatever frightened her had followed him into the room. He walked past Wade without speaking. In the hallway, Evelyn caught his arm. What happened? She saw someone. Who? She won't say. Evelyn's grip tightened. Why not? Caleb looked through the small glass window in the door. Wade pulled a chair beside Claire's bed. Because she thinks telling the truth will cost her something. For the next 3 days, Bellwether turned Caleb Reed into a story. In one version, he had been angry over unpaid wages. In another, he planned to frighten Evelyn into abandoning the highway dispute. A third claimed Caleb had started the fire so he could rescue Claire and become a hero. That version spread fastest. People liked stories that explained courage as vanity. It made bravery easier to forgive. The diner stopped serving Caleb before anyone officially told it to. The hardware store owner claimed the credit account for Freedom Creek had been suspended because of insurance complications, though he would not look Caleb in the eye. 2 horse owners canceled training contracts. A woman Caleb had known since childhood pulled her grandson closer when he passed them outside the pharmacy. The sheriff did not arrest him. That made the town more certain. They believed Wade was building his case. Caleb stayed at the ranch. He slept little. During the day, he cared for the burned horses and helped rebuild temporary fencing. At night, he walked the property with a flashlight, studying tire marks, broken branches, and the black scar where the fire began. The official origin point lay 50 yards from the destroyed foaling barn, near a drainage ditch beside the creek road. Investigators had already marked the area with yellow flags. Caleb found melted plastic, scorched wire, and a broken glass bottle. Nothing that told him who had been there. On the 4th night, he heard hooves behind him. The surviving mare stood at the edge of the burned pasture. Her name was Mercy. She was a 12-year-old chestnut with a white blaze and a history of throwing anyone who handled her too quickly. Evelyn had bought her from a neglect case 2 years earlier. Caleb had spent months earning her trust. Now she stood loose beneath the moonlight, watching him. Gates the other way, Caleb said. Mercy took 1 step toward the blackened ground, then stopped. Her nostrils flared. Caleb approached slowly. The mare's body stiffened. It's me. He held out his hand. Mercy let him touch her neck. Beneath the smell of smoke, Caleb caught another scent. Leather, oil, and something sharp. Aftershave. He had smelled it before, not on the ranch, in the sheriff's station. Caleb moved around the mare, checking her burns. A healing cut ran along her shoulder. Near the base of her mane, He found a thin strip of dark blue fabric caught beneath a metal buckle on her halter. He pulled it free. Uniform cloth. Mercy jerked her head toward the creek road. Then she began to tremble. Headlights appeared beyond the south fence. A county cruiser slowed near the gate. Mercy reared. Caleb grabbed the lead rope before she could bolt. The cruiser stopped. Deputy Travis Cole stepped out. Mercy screamed. The sound went through Caleb like cold water. Travis froze beside the vehicle. Caleb stared at him. The mare pulled against the rope, eyes white, foam gathering at the corners of her mouth. "Turn off the lights," Caleb said. Travis did. Mercy kept trembling. Caleb walked her backward until the cruiser disappeared behind the shed. Her breathing slowly eased. Travis approached on foot. What happened? Caleb held up the strip of fabric. "You tell me." Travis looked at it. His face changed. "Where did you get that?" "Caught in her halter." "That could be from anybody." "It smells like county-issue leather conditioner." Travis stared at him. "You know what county leather conditioner smells like. I know horses, I know tack, and I know fear." "You think she's scared of me?" "She's scared of the car." Travis glanced toward the road. Caleb stepped closer. "Was a county vehicle here the night of the fire?" "No." "Think carefully." I said no. "Then why did you warn me to be careful who I trust?" Travis rubbed the back of his neck. He looked younger in the darkness, less like a deputy and more like the boy Caleb had once lifted onto a patient gelding. "I shouldn't have said that." "But you did." Travis turned away. Caleb caught his shoulder. "Claire saw someone." Travis pulled free. "You need to stop asking questions." "Why?" "Because Wade is already angry." "About what?" "You. He's been angry at me before." "Not like this." Caleb watched him. Travis lowered his voice. "The highway project has people nervous. So this is about the road." "I didn't say that." "You keep saying things without saying them." Travis looked toward the ranch house. "Tell Evelyn to take the offer." Caleb went still. "What offer?" "Harlan Pike's. Tell her to sell the creek strip and let this end." "The fire almost killed Claire." "I know." "Is that what you call ending it?" Travis's eyes shone in the dark. "You don't understand what's happening." "Then explain it." "I can't." "You mean you won't?" Travis took a step backward. Caleb held up the blue cloth. "Was this yours?" "No." "Wade's?" Travis did not answer. A muscle moved in Caleb's jaw. "Get off the ranch." "Caleb." "Now." Travis returned to the cruiser. Before he opened the door, he stopped. The mare shouldn't have survived. Caleb's hand tightened around the cloth. Travis seemed to realize what he had said. Then he climbed inside and drove away. The next morning, Caleb found Evelyn in the ranch office surrounded by insurance forms. Sunlight fell through the window onto piles of old breeding records, unpaid invoices, and photographs rescued from the fire. One showed Evelyn's grandfather standing beside the original barn in 1948. Another showed Claire at 9 years old, sitting on Caleb's shoulders during a county parade. Evelyn looked up from the desk. "You look terrible." "Travis was here last night." Her expression hardened. "Why?" "He told me to make you take Harlan's offer." Evelyn set down her pen. "He said that?" "He also said Mercy shouldn't have survived." For several seconds, Evelyn did not move. Then she stood. "Show me." They walked to the training barn. Mercy stood in the far stall. The moment she saw Caleb, she stepped forward. When Evelyn approached, the mare remained calm. Caleb showed her the cloth. Evelyn rubbed it between her fingers. It could be from a uniform. It could. You think a deputy was here? I think she was handled by someone wearing one. Evelyn looked at the mare's halter. How did she get out of the barn? That's what I've been wondering. The western stall had been locked from the outside. Caleb remembered the latch. He had tried to reach it before Claire called him. There had not been time. Yet Mercy escaped. Someone opened the stall, either during the fire or just before it. Evelyn touched the mare's nose. She kicked when Wade came near her yesterday. Caleb looked at her. Wade was here? He stopped by while you were at the south pasture, said he wanted to see the damage. Did she react to anyone else? No. Caleb looked toward the road. Evelyn folded the blue cloth into her palm. We need to give this to the state investigators. No. She turned. Why not? Because Wade will hear before they do. Wade is the sheriff. That's the problem. Evelyn's face tightened. For most of her life, Wade Larkin had been part of the furniture of the county. He had attended her wedding. He had stood beside her husband's casket. He had brought groceries after the funeral and checked the fences after storms. Distrusting him would mean rearranging years of memory. Caleb, that is a serious accusation. I know. He has known Claire since she was born. I know. He would never hurt her. Maybe he didn't expect her to be there. Evelyn looked away. The mare shifted. Caleb spoke quietly. Claire is afraid of him. Evelyn's eyes returned to his. How do you know? She stopped talking when he entered the hospital room. She was exhausted. She looked at him like she knew something. Evelyn said nothing. Caleb continued. Ask her. Claire came home that afternoon. She walked slowly from Evelyn's truck with her burned arm in a sling. Half the ranch workers gathered near the porch, but Claire flinched when too many people moved toward her at once. Caleb stayed back. She saw him anyway. For a moment, relief crossed her face. Then she noticed the red stains still visible on the gate. Arsonist had faded, but not disappeared. Claire stared at it. Who did that? No one knows, Evelyn said. Claire looked at Caleb. I'm sorry. He shrugged. Paint comes off. That's not what I meant. I know. She stepped closer, her voice lowered. Can we talk? They walked toward the creek. The afternoon was cool, but smoke still hung over the burned pasture. Claire moved carefully, as though part of her expected the ground to catch fire again. At the edge of the water, she sat on a fallen log. Caleb remained standing. My mother told me about the mare, she said. What did she tell you? That Mercy reacted to a police car. That's true? And you found cloth? Yes. Claire stared at the creek. Do you think Sheriff Larkin started the fire? I think he knows more than he's saying. She rubbed her thumb against the edge of her bandage. Caleb waited. After a while, Claire said, The man I saw wore a uniform. There it was. The truth, spoken so softly it almost disappeared beneath the water. Caleb sat beside her. Was it Wade? I don't know. Travis? I don't know. Could you see the face? No. But there was a badge. Why didn't you tell anyone? I did. Caleb turned toward her. Who? Sheriff Larkin, at the hospital. What did he say? He said smoke can make people confused. He said if I accused an officer without being certain, I could ruin a man's life. Caleb's expression hardened. Claire's voice shook. Then he asked if I remembered your truck. And you said yes. I did see it. I know. He kept asking whether you had been angry with Mama, whether you had complained about money, whether you talked about burning the dead away. I never said that. I know. Do you? Claire looked at him. Caleb hated the bitterness in his own voice, but he could not take it back. She lowered her eyes. For 1 second, she admitted. I wondered. The words hurt more because they were honest. Caleb looked across the creek. Claire continued. Your truck was there, your fuel can. Everyone said you had been angry, and I could not understand why someone who saved me would also put me in danger. That should have been your answer. I know that now. You knew it then. She began to cry. Caleb stood and walked several steps away. He had imagined the town doubting him. He had expected the sheriff, the diner, the people who had never liked seeing him trusted at Freedom Creek. But Claire had known him since she was 14. He had taught her how to quiet a frightened horse by slowing her own breathing. He had held her father upright the night pain took his legs. He had driven through a tropical storm to bring her home from college when the roads flooded. And still, for 1 second, she had wondered. Behind him, Claire said, I'm ashamed. Caleb closed his eyes. I'm not asking you to forgive me. He turned. She wiped her face with her good hand. I just need you to know I'm going to tell the truth now. To who? Everyone. That won't make them believe you. I don't care. You will when they call you confused or ungrateful or a liar. Then they can call me all three. Caleb studied her. The girl who had entered the burning barn for a foal was still there, frightened, wounded, but unwilling to leave something helpless behind. He sat beside her again. What else did you see? Claire took a long breath. The man was carrying something. What? A metal case? Maybe a toolbox? Anything else? There was a county truck by the trees. Not a cruiser. One of the utility pickups. Did you see the number? No. Did the man see you? I think so. Why? He stopped. Caleb looked at her. Claire's voice dropped. And then he waved. Not a warning, not surprise, a wave. The gesture of someone who believed he belonged there. Did you recognize the way he moved? Caleb asked. She shook her head. What happened next? I went into the barn. Juniper was restless. Then I heard the truck drive away. A few minutes later, smoke came under the back door. Caleb stared at the burned pasture. Someone set the fire after they left. Maybe a timer? Maybe. Claire's shoulders tightened. What do we do? Caleb looked toward the ranch house. We find out why the barn mattered. It was Claire who remembered the surveyor. 2 months earlier, a man from the county highway department had visited Freedom Creek with old maps and a ground-penetrating radar unit. He claimed he was checking soil conditions near the proposed connector road. Evelyn had refused access to the creek pasture. The surveyor returned 3 days later with Harlan Pike. They argued near the foaling barn. At the time, Claire heard only fragments. Right of way, public benefit, historic obstruction. She had forgotten the conversation until Caleb asked why someone wanted the barn destroyed. Evelyn remembered more. Harlan asked whether we had ever found headstones near the creek, she said. They sat around the ranch kitchen table that evening. Rain tapped softly against the windows. The storm had arrived too late to save the barn. What did you tell him? Caleb asked. That my grandfather mentioned graves when I was a girl. Claire leaned forward. What graves? Evelyn looked toward the dark window. There used to be a settlement along Freedom Creek after the Civil War. Freed families, sharecroppers at first, then landowners. My grandfather said there was a church near the bend. Caleb had heard pieces of the story. Most black families in the county had. Freedom Creek had once been called Jubilee Crossing. After emancipation, former slaves gathered there to build cabins, plant gardens, and establish a school. Floods, debt, and violence scattered the community over decades. By the 1930s, little remained except stories. Where was the church? Claire asked. No one knew exactly. Caleb looked toward the ruined barn. Under the west pasture. Evelyn shook her head. That's impossible. Why? Because my family built there in the 40s. That doesn't mean nothing was there first. Claire's eyes widened. The surveyor said historic obstruction. Evelyn stood abruptly. She walked to a cabinet and removed a metal box. Inside were old deeds, tax papers, and letters tied with string. My grandfather kept everything. They searched until midnight. Most documents concerned livestock purchases, fence lines, and crop yields. Then Claire found a folded map inside a 1936 county tax ledger. The paper was brittle and yellow. A hand-drawn road followed the creek. Near the southern bend stood a small square marked Bethel Mercy Church. Beside it, someone had written burial ground. The location sat directly beneath the foaling barn and the pasture behind it. For a long moment, no one spoke. Evelyn lowered herself into a chair. My family built over a cemetery. You didn't know, Claire said, but someone did. Caleb studied the map. The proposed highway connector crossed the same ground. If human remains were confirmed, construction could be delayed for years. The route might be moved entirely. Harlan Pike's timber contracts, nearby land options, and political agreements could collapse. The fire had not simply destroyed a barn. It had cleared the ground. Claire looked at Caleb. They wanted to erase the cemetery, or make sure no one found it before construction started. Evelyn pressed both hands against the table. My grandfather knew. Maybe, Caleb said. He had this map. Maybe he kept it because he wanted someone to find it. Then why didn't he tell me? Caleb looked at the old paper. People hide what shames them. They also hide what they're afraid someone else will destroy. Evelyn's face crumpled. All her life, she had believed Freedom Creek was a family inheritance built through endurance. Now she had to consider what lay beneath it, not just bones. A silence. Claire reached for her mother's hand. Evelyn pulled away. I need air. She walked outside into the rain. Claire started after her, but Caleb stopped her. Let her go. She thinks this makes us guilty. It makes the truth complicated. She'll blame herself. She always does. Claire looked through the window at her mother standing alone beneath the porch light. What do we do with the map? Caleb folded it carefully. We make copies. The county records office occupied the basement of the courthouse. The next morning, Caleb and Claire entered through the side door, while Evelyn stayed at the ranch. Claire wore a long sleeve over her bandage and a baseball cap pulled low. They asked for property maps from 1900 to 1950. The clerk, Mrs. Doreen Bell, had known Caleb's mother. She was 72, sharp-eyed, and suspicious of anyone who requested records before lunchtime. She looked from Caleb to Claire. You two planning to build a subdivision? No, ma'am, Caleb said. Then why do you need old plat books? Family research. Whose family? Everybody's. Doreen stared at him. Then she locked the basement door. You did not hear this from me. Claire straightened. Doreen crossed the room and removed a ledger from a shelf marked drainage assessments. Harlan Hetch Pike came in 6 weeks ago asking for the same maps. Caleb opened the ledger. Several pages had been cut out. Who removed these? They were already gone when I found it. Did Harlan take them? I didn't see him do it. But? Doreen glanced toward the ceiling. Sheriff Larkin was with him. Claire went pale. What were they looking for? Caleb asked. Old easements, cemeteries, church property, anything that might interfere with the highway route. Did they find something? Doreen walked to a locked cabinet. From inside, she removed a photocopy of a 1928 property transfer. The original parcel belonged to the Bethel Mercy Mutual Aid Society. It included 3 acres along Freedom Creek and a burial ground reserved in perpetuity for the descendants and families of Jubilee Crossing. In 1941, the county seized the surrounding land for unpaid taxes. But the cemetery parcel was excluded. Legally, it had never belonged to Evelyn's family. Claire stared at the document. Then the county can't build there. Not without locating descendants and following preservation law, Doreen said, and certainly not without an archaeological survey. Caleb looked at her. Why wasn't this in the regular deed file? Because someone moved it. Who? I don't know. Doreen's eyes hardened. But the day after Sheriff Larkin visited, I found the original file open on the floor. A sound came from the hallway. Footsteps. Doreen took the copy from Caleb, folded it inside a county tax brochure, and pushed it beneath Claire's jacket. The door opened. Wade Larkin stood there. His gaze moved across the room. Basement door was locked. Old pipes, Doreen said. They rattle it shut. Wade looked at Caleb. What are you doing here? Family research. The sheriff smiled without warmth. Whose family? Caleb met his eyes. Everybody's. For 1 second, something flickered across Wade's face. Recognition. Then it vanished. He stepped aside. Caleb, I need a word. Claire moved closer to him. Wade noticed. This is not an arrest. You've said that before, Caleb replied. They walked into the hallway. Wade waited until Doreen closed the records room. You need to stop. Stop what? Stirring people up. People seem stirred already. You're looking for conspiracies because you don't like where the evidence points. I know where it points. Do you? Caleb lowered his voice. A county vehicle was on the ranch before the fire. Wade's face remained still. Claire told you. She was injured. She was clear. She was scared. Of you. The sheriff's jaw tightened. Caleb continued. Mercy reacts to county vehicles. She's a burned horse. She had uniform fabric caught in her halter. That landed. Wade's eyes changed, only for a moment. But Caleb saw it. Give it to me, Wade said. No. That may be evidence. It may disappear. Wade stepped closer. You are close to obstruction. You are close to something worse. The hallway seemed to narrow around them. Wade spoke quietly. You think because you saved that girl, no one can touch you. I think because I saved her. You're angry she can talk. For the first time, Wade lost control. His hand struck Caleb's chest and shoved him against the wall. Claire opened the records room door. Doreen appeared behind her. The sheriff stepped back immediately. Caleb straightened his shirt. Wade looked at the two witnesses. Then he smiled. "Careful on the stairs," he said. Outside the courthouse, Claire's hands shook. He knows. Yes. What do we do now? Caleb looked toward the sheriff's office across the square. We make sure he can't bury this. They drove to Jackson and delivered copies of the cemetery map, the property transfer, and photographs of the uniform cloth to three places: the State Historic Preservation Office, a civil rights attorney named Denise Holloway, and a reporter at the Jackson Sentinel. Caleb trusted none of them completely. He trusted duplication. By evening, the town knew about the cemetery. The Sentinel posted a short article online asking whether a historic black burial ground lay beneath the proposed highway route. The story did not mention the fire, Caleb, or the sheriff. It did not need to. Harlan Pike arrived at Freedom Creek before dark. He drove a black pickup that cost more than the ranch's yearly feed bill. He wore polished boots and a raincoat over a white shirt. Evelyn met him on the porch. Caleb watched from the training barn. Harlan removed his hat. "Evelyn, we need to talk." "You can talk from there." He glanced toward Caleb. "This is private." "Nothing is private anymore." Harlan's smile tightened. "I saw the article." "So did everyone." "You made a mistake." Evelyn stepped down from the porch. "My mistake was trusting men who brought surveyors onto my land. I brought professionals, trying to save this county from dying." "By paving over graves?" "We don't know there are graves." "You knew enough to ask." Harlan's face hardened. "This road means jobs, warehouses, tax revenue. It means our children don't have to move away. It means your timber company gets a state contract." "Both things can be true." Evelyn crossed her arms. "Did you start the fire?" Harlan looked genuinely shocked. "No." "Did Wade?" "No." "Did Travis?" "No." "Then why is everyone so frightened?" Harlan glanced again at Caleb. "Because a bad situation is becoming dangerous." Caleb approached. "For who?" "For all of us." "You weren't in that barn." Harlan's expression sharpened. "Neither were you when the fire began." Evelyn stepped between them. "Get off my property." Harlan ignored her. He looked at Caleb. "You think this town will follow you into some crusade because a horse got scared and an old map turned up?" "No." "Good. I think they'll follow the money." For the first time, Harlan's confidence slipped. Caleb saw it. Evelyn did too. Harlan put on his hat. "The State Transportation Board votes in 10 days. Once the route is approved, nothing you found will matter." "Dead people tend to matter," Caleb said. "Not to progress." He turned toward his truck. Before leaving, he looked back at Evelyn. "My offer expires tomorrow." "What offer?" Claire asked from the porch. Harlan smiled faintly. "The one that could save your mother's ranch." He drove away. Claire stared at Evelyn. What is he talking about? Evelyn did not answer. Caleb looked at her. "Tell her." Evelyn's shoulders sagged. "Harlan offered enough for the creek acreage to pay every debt we have." "How much debt?" Claire asked. "More than I told you." "How much?" 840,000. Claire went still. The number hung between them. Freedom Creek had survived floods, droughts, recessions, and the death of Evelyn's husband. But medical bills, tax liens, storm repairs, and years of declining horse sales had hollowed it from within. Caleb knew the ranch was struggling. He had not known it was dying. Claire sat on the porch steps. You were going to sell. I considered it. To Harlan, I had no choice. You always have a choice. That is something people say when they are not the one signing payroll. Claire flinched. Evelyn continued, anger rising through shame. I owe Caleb 3 months of back pay. I owe the feed supplier. I owe the bank. Your father's final hospital bill is still in a drawer because I cannot bear to open it. Her voice broke. Do you think I wanted to sell the creek? I was trying to keep the rest. Claire looked toward the burned pasture. If the cemetery's there, you can't sell it. I know. Then what happens? Evelyn looked at the ranch around them. We lose everything. That night, no one ate dinner. Claire sat in her father's old office reading financial statements. Evelyn stayed in her bedroom. Caleb walked the barns. Near midnight, he found Mercy standing at her stall door. The mare watched him with tired eyes. You know something, he murmured. Mercy lifted her head. Caleb entered the stall and ran his hands along her neck, shoulder, and back. He checked the halter again. One buckle had been replaced recently, not with the brass hardware used on Freedom Creek tack. This buckle was stainless steel. County Mounted Patrol used the same style. Caleb removed it and examined the underside. A faint number had been engraved into the metal. 17. The county inventory number. He carried it to the bunkhouse and called Travis. No answer. He called again. On the third attempt, Travis picked up. You need to stop calling me. Patrol halter number 17. Silence. Caleb continued. The buckle was on Mercy. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Travis breathed heavily into the phone. Where are you? At the ranch. Stay there. The call ended. 20 minutes later, headlights appeared on the road. Not a cruiser. An old Chevrolet with one dim headlamp. Travis parked behind the bunkhouse. He entered without knocking. His uniform shirt was unbuttoned at the collar. He looked as though he had not slept in days. Show me. Caleb placed the buckle on the table. Travis stared at the number. Where's the halter? Safe. Where? Safe. Travis sat down. His face had lost its color. Wade checked that halter out 6 months ago. For what? Mounted patrol. Training. Does the county have horses? No. Then why? Travis rubbed both hands over his face. He said it was for a parade. Was it? No. Caleb waited. Travis looked toward the window. My father owes Harlan Pike money. Caleb said nothing. He borrowed against the farm after my mother got sick. Then the crops failed. Harlan bought the note from the bank. What does that have to do with the fire? Everything. Travis stood and paced the room. Harlan has been buying land along the highway route for 2 years, quietly, through shell companies. Wade helped him pressure owners who wouldn't sell. How? Code violations, tax liens, drug searches, anything that made people tired. And Evelyn? She wouldn't bend. So they burned her barn. Travis stopped. I didn't know they were going to do that. But you know who did. His eyes filled with shame. Wait. The room went silent. Caleb had expected the answer. Hearing it still changed something. Why? To destroy the cemetery? No. Why were you involved? I moved your truck. Caleb stared at him. Travis's voice shook. Wade told me to pick it up while you were in Jackson. He said he needed it for an undercover operation. I knew it sounded wrong, but he had the keys. How? You keep a spare behind the battery box. Caleb's jaw tightened. Only a few people knew that. Travis continued. I drove it to the creek road. Wade told me where to park, and then he brought me back in the county utility truck. You used my fuel can. I carried it, but I didn't pour anything. You planted my boot print. Travis looked down. I borrowed boots from the evidence room. Same brand, same size. Caleb crossed the room so fast, Travis stepped backward. You framed me. I know. You let them paint my gate. I know. You watched this town treat me like an animal. I know. Caleb grabbed the front of Travis's shirt. You knew Claire was in that barn? No. Travis's voice cracked. I swear to God, no. Wade said the barn would be empty. He said it would happen after dark. But it started early. I don't know why. Caleb held him against the wall. Travis did not fight back. I deserve whatever you do. Caleb thought of the diner, the whispers, Claire wondering, Evelyn asking for the truth as though 7 years had not earned it. His fist tightened. Then Mercy screamed from the barn. The sound broke through the room. Caleb released Travis. The deputy slid against the wall, breathing hard. Why did Wade let the mare out? Caleb asked. Travis looked confused. What? She escaped a locked stall. I don't know. Someone opened it. Travis shook his head. Wade hates horses. Then someone else was there. Caleb stepped back. Harlan? No, he was at a planning dinner. How do you know? I was assigned security. Then who? Travis looked at the buckle. There's one more person who knew. Who? The county engineer. The engineer's name was Martin Vale. He had supervised the highway surveys, filed the environmental reports, and certified that the proposed route contained no known burial grounds. He was 58, divorced, and respected for attending every Rotary luncheon in the county. He also owned a metal case like the one Claire had seen. By dawn, Martin Vale was gone. His house stood empty. His county truck had been left at the airport in Jackson. His phone was disconnected. Wade announced that Vale was wanted for questioning in connection with the fire. Then he arrested Caleb. The charge was evidence tampering. 2 deputies arrived at Freedom Creek just after breakfast. Travis was not among them. Wade stepped from the cruiser, holding a warrant. You removed evidence from the fire scene. I found evidence on a horse. You concealed it. I protected it. You can explain that to a judge. Evelyn came onto the porch. You know he didn't start that fire. This arrest concerns obstruction. Claire stood behind her mother. He saved my life. Wade looked at her. That doesn't put him above the law. Caleb held out his hands. The deputies cuffed him. Evelyn stepped forward. You will not take him from this ranch like a criminal. Wade's face remained calm. He is a criminal until a court says otherwise. Caleb looked at the sheriff. No, that's not how the law works. Wade smiled. It's how towns work. The deputies placed Caleb in the back of the cruiser. As they pulled away, he saw Claire standing at the gate beside the faded red word. Arsonist. This time, she did not look afraid. She looked furious. The jail cell smelled of bleach and old concrete. Caleb sat on the narrow bunk while voices moved through the hallway. He could not hear the words, only the rhythm. Doors opening, phones ringing, Wade speaking to someone in a low, controlled tone. Hours passed. Near noon, the station became suddenly quiet. Then Denise Holloway entered. The civil rights attorney wore a dark green suit carried 2 phones, and moved like a woman who had already decided everyone around her was wasting time. "You have made several powerful men very nervous," she said. Caleb stood. "Is that good?" "No, but it is useful." She handed papers to the guard. "Your bail has been posted." "By who?" Mrs. Ward tried. "The bank froze her account this morning." Caleb stared at her. "Why?" "Harlan Pike purchased the ranch's primary loan." Of course he had. Denise continued. "Your bail was posted by the Jubilee Crossing Historical Association." "I didn't know there was one." "There wasn't yesterday." A faint smile touched her face. "Apparently, there is now." Outside the station, nearly 100 people stood along the courthouse square. Most were black families from Bellwether, Jackson, and the surrounding counties. Some carried photographs of grandparents and great-grandparents. Others held handmade signs. "Let the dead speak. Protect Freedom Creek. Justice for Caleb Reed." Caleb stopped on the station steps. He recognized Doreen Bell near the front. Beside her stood Reverend Samuel Knox from New Hope Baptist Church. Several local teachers, ranch workers, and people Caleb had not seen since childhood. Claire stood with them. Her burned arm remained in a sling. She walked up the steps and faced the reporters gathered below. "My name is Claire Ward," she said. Her voice shook at first. Then it steadied. "4 nights ago, Caleb Reed carried me out of a burning barn. He went back into that fire after he was already safe. He saved a newborn foal. He saved me." Cameras turned toward Caleb. Claire continued. "I also saw a county employee near the barn before the fire. I told Sheriff Larkin. He dismissed what I saw and questioned me until I doubted my own memory." The courthouse doors opened behind them. Wade appeared. Claire looked directly at him. "I do not doubt it anymore." The crowd fell silent. "I saw a badge. I saw a county truck. And I saw a man carrying a metal case toward land that county officials knew might contain a historic cemetery." Wade descended 1 step. "Claire, you are interfering with an active investigation." "No," she said. "I'm correcting one." The crowd murmured. Caleb watched her. She had spent days carrying shame for 1 second of doubt. Now she stood before the town and gave that shame nowhere to hide. Claire turned toward him. "I am sorry I did not speak sooner." Caleb's throat tightened. She faced the cameras again. "But I am speaking now." The video spread across Mississippi by sunset. By morning, the state attorney general announced a review of the county investigation. The highway board postponed its vote. Archaeologists requested emergency access to Freedom Creek. Wade remained sheriff, Harlan remained powerful, and Martin Vale remained missing. Then someone shot at Caleb. He was repairing a fence near the east pasture when the bullet struck the post beside his head. The sound reached him a fraction of a second after the wood exploded. He dropped behind the tractor tire. A second shot tore through the metal hood. The horses scattered. Caleb crawled toward the ditch, while a vehicle accelerated along the tree line. He caught only a glimpse of dust in a dark truck. By the time Evelyn and 2 workers reached him, the shooter was gone. Claire arrived moments later, pale and breathless. "Are you hit?" "No." She grabbed his shirt, searching for blood. "I'm fine." "That was not a warning." "I know." Evelyn looked toward the road. "We need to leave." Caleb stood. "No. Someone just tried to kill you. And if we leave, they destroy the cemetery." I would rather lose the land than bury you in it." The words silenced everyone. Evelyn's face broke. For days, she had moved like a woman defending property. Now the truth emerged. The ranch was not what she feared losing most. Caleb stepped closer. "I'm not dying for land." "Then what are you doing?" He looked toward the burned barn. "For the people nobody listened to." Evelyn's eyes filled. "And for me?" she asked. The question surprised him. Caleb looked at the woman who had trusted him, doubted him, defended him, and needed him. A woman who had inherited both the beauty of the ranch and the silence beneath it. "For you too." Evelyn pressed her lips together. Then she touched his cheek with one trembling hand. "You are my family," she said. Caleb looked away. No one had called him that since his mother died. Claire began to cry. One of the ranch workers cleared his throat and walked toward the fence, giving them privacy no open pasture could provide. That evening, Travis returned. He parked at the gate and walked the entire distance to the house with his hands visible. Caleb met him on the porch. "You have nerve." "I have evidence." Travis carried a small digital recorder. "I recorded Wade." Caleb did not take it. "Why?" "Because he ordered me to find Martin Vale before the state police did." "Did you?" "Yes." "Where?" "An abandoned hunting cabin near Ross Barnett Reservoir." "Is he alive?" "For now." Claire came onto the porch. Travis looked at her bandaged arm. "I'm sorry." She stared at him. "Did you move Caleb's truck?" "Yes." "Did you know about the fire?" "Not until it was too late." "But you helped frame him." "Yes." Claire's face hardened. "Then don't apologize like the word repairs anything." Travis lowered his head. "You're right." Caleb looked at the recorder. "What did Wade say?" "That Vale changed the timer." "Why?" "He thought the barn would be empty at 5:30. He wanted to start the fire early enough that county crews could control it before it spread." "Why would he care?" "Vale said the plan was only to destroy the Western Foundation before archaeologists arrived. He didn't want anyone hurt." Claire's voice turned cold. "He set a barn on fire." "He told Wade the fire was supposed to burn a small section. Then the wind shifted." Caleb took the recorder. "And Wade?" "Wade wanted the whole barn gone. So he altered Vale's setup." Travis nodded. "He added accelerant after Vale left. That's why the fire moved so fast." Claire gripped the porch rail. "Wade knew I was there?" Travis's eyes filled. "He saw your car." The silence that followed felt like the moment before a storm breaks. "He knew," Claire whispered. "Yes." "And he still lit it." "Yes." Caleb closed his hand around the recorder. Evelyn stepped outside behind them. Her face was white. "Where is Wade now?" Travis looked toward the road. "Come in here." They heard the sirens before he finished speaking. 3 county cruisers stopped at the gate. Wade stepped from the first. 2 deputies followed, uncertain and pale. Harlan Pike arrived moments later in his black truck. Caleb looked at Travis. "You called them?" "No." Wade walked toward the house. "Deputy Cole, step away from them." Travis remained on the porch. "I'm done stepping away." Wade stopped. The ranch workers gathered near the barns. Claire stood beside Caleb. Evelyn moved to his other side. Harlan approached more slowly. "This has gone far enough," he said. Evelyn looked at him. "You don't decide that anymore." Wade held out his hand. "Travis, give me the recorder." "No. I am ordering you." You ordered me to frame an innocent man. The deputies behind Wade looked at each other. Wade's voice hardened. You are confused? No, sir. You've been under pressure? No, sir. Your father's financial problems have affected your judgment. Travis flinched. Harlan stepped forward. We can resolve this without destroying everyone. Claire laughed once, without humor. You almost burned me alive. Harlan looked at Wade. Wade said nothing. That was the moment Harlan understood. His face changed. You told me the barn was empty. Wade turned toward him. Be quiet. No. Harlan stepped back. You said Vale checked it. He did. Then what happened? Wade's composure cracked. She arrived after. Claire stared at him. And you saw me. The sheriff looked at her. For the first time since the fire, he seemed unable to find the right lie. Caleb stepped off the porch. You could have stopped it. Wade's eyes moved to him. The route had to stay clear. You could have warned her. The whole county depended on that project. You could have saved her. Wade's voice rose. I had spent 8 years trying to bring something to this dying place. 8 years while businesses closed, farms failed, and children left. That road was the first real chance we had. Claire's voice shook. So you chose the road. Wade looked at her. I believed Caleb would reach you. Caleb felt something cold settle inside him. You knew I was there. I saw you return. You set the fire because you expected me to save her. Wade's face twisted. You always wanted to be the man everyone trusted. Caleb took one step closer. No, you needed me to be the man you could blame. The deputies behind Wade lowered their hands from their belts. Harlan looked sick. Evelyn descended the porch steps. My daughter could have died. Wade stared at her. We all sacrifice for the future. Evelyn slapped him. The sound cracked across the yard. No one moved. Wade touched his cheek. Then he reached for his gun. Travis drew first. Don't. The other deputies raised their weapons. Not at Caleb, at Wade. For a moment, the old sheriff stood in the center of the ranch he had tried to burn, surrounded by men who had spent years obeying him. He looked toward the road. State police vehicles appeared beyond the gate. Denise Holloway stepped from the lead car beside 2 investigators. Wade lowered his hand. The badge on his chest caught the evening light. Then one of his own deputies removed it. The search of Freedom Creek began 2 days later. Archaeologists arrived with ground-penetrating radar, flags, cameras, and representatives from descendant communities. They worked carefully across the burned western foundation. On the first afternoon, the equipment detected 3 possible graves. By the end of the week, they had located 47. Some were marked by stones buried beneath decades of soil. Others had no markers at all. One grave belonged to a child. Claire stood beside Caleb as the archaeologists uncovered a small blue glass bead near the burial. It could have been from a necklace, the lead archaeologist said. Claire covered her mouth. Evelyn walked away and sat beneath an oak tree. For the first time, the cemetery had witnesses. Families arrived from across the state carrying Bibles, letters, photographs, and names passed through generations. Doreen Bell found records connecting her great-great-grandmother to Bethel Mercy Church. Reverend Knox led a prayer beside the creek. The town came too. Some arrived out of respect. Some came out of curiosity. Some stood at a distance because they did not know how to face what had been beneath them all along. Caleb spent most days with Mercy. The mare improved slowly. She still trembled at sirens, but she no longer panicked when Travis approached on foot. Travis resigned from the sheriff's department and surrendered to state investigators. He confessed publicly to moving Caleb's truck, planting the fuel can, and falsifying notes in the fire report. His father lost the farm to Harlan's creditors anyway. Travis accepted that consequence without asking for sympathy. Harlan Pike was charged with conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction. Evidence showed he had financed the scheme, pressured county employees, and hidden historic property records. He claimed he never approved violence. Perhaps that was true, but he had built the machine that made violence useful. Martin Vale survived. State police found him at the hunting cabin with a fractured wrist and signs he had been held against his will. He agreed to testify. His confession showed that he had designed a controlled ignition to destroy part of the barn foundation, believing no animals or people would be present. The law would decide how much that distinction mattered. Claire had already decided. "People always say they didn't mean for it to become terrible," she told Caleb one evening, as if terrible things arrived from nowhere. They stood near the creek while sunset turned the water gold. Caleb nodded. Most terrible things start small enough for someone to excuse. Claire looked toward the excavation tents. "Do you forgive me?" He knew what she meant, not the fire. The second of doubt. Caleb took his time. "I understand you. That's not the same." "No." She waited. He looked at her. "Forgiveness isn't pretending it didn't hurt." "I know. It's deciding the hurt doesn't get the last word." Tears filled her eyes. Then, "Yes." Claire leaned against him. He put one arm around her shoulders. Across the pasture, Evelyn watched them from the porch. The ranch still faced foreclosure. The cemetery stopped the highway project, but it did not erase debt. Insurance investigators delayed payment because of the criminal case. Feed bills continued. Fences needed repair. Burned horses required treatment. Evelyn called a meeting in the old training barn. Workers, family members, descendant representatives, Denise Holloway, and several community leaders gathered on folding chairs. Evelyn stood before them, holding a stack of papers. "My family spent generations calling this place ours," she said. "We were wrong." The room remained quiet. "The cemetery parcel belongs to the descendants of Jubilee Crossing, legally and morally." She placed the papers on a table. "I am transferring every acre connected to the burial ground into a permanent historical trust." Claire looked at her mother. Evelyn continued. "The remaining ranch land will be reorganized as a nonprofit equine rehabilitation and agricultural training center." A murmur moved through the room. "We will serve injured horses, young riders, veterans, and families who have been pushed away from rural opportunities." She looked at Caleb. "If he agrees, Caleb Reed will serve as director." Every face turned toward him. Caleb stared at Evelyn. "You didn't ask me." "No." "Why not?" "Because you would have said no before I finished." A few people laughed softly. Caleb did not. "What about the debt?" Denise stood. "The historical designation opens access to preservation grants. Community donors have already pledged enough to negotiate with the bank. It will not be easy, but it is possible." Evelyn looked at Caleb. "I cannot undo what happened to you. No. I cannot undo what my family failed to protect. No. But I can stop pretending legacy means keeping everything under one name." Caleb looked around the barn, at Claire, at Doreen Bell, at Travis standing alone near the doorway. at families whose ancestors had been buried beneath horse stalls and concrete. "What would the place be called?" he asked. Evelyn smiled through tears. "Freedom Creek Center for Healing and Horsemanship." Caleb looked toward Mercy's stall. The mare stood quietly, listening. "All right," he said. The room exhaled. Evelyn laughed and covered her face. Claire hugged him before he could step away. The work began before the money arrived. Volunteers rebuilt fences. Churches donated feed. A high school welding class repaired stall doors. Retired carpenters raised a new barn farther from the cemetery. Descendant families planted cedar trees along the burial ground. Caleb trained the first group of students that autumn. There were 8. A veteran with a damaged knee. A 13-year-old boy from Jackson who had never touched a horse. A widow who stopped speaking after her husband's death. 2 sisters in foster care. A former rodeo rider recovering from addiction. And 2 county teenagers sentenced to community service. Caleb did not promise that horses would heal them. He disliked promises that placed too much responsibility on animals. Instead, he taught them how to notice the position of an ear, the change in breathing, the difference between fear and defiance. "How do you make a horse trust you?" the 13-year-old asked. Caleb stood beside Mercy in the round pen. "You don't make trust." "Then what do you do?" "You become someone worth trusting." The boy considered that. "So, how long does it take?" "Depends on what happened before you arrived." Mercy watched Caleb. He held out his hand. After a moment, she stepped toward him. The criminal trials began the following spring. Wade Larkin entered the courthouse without his badge. The square was crowded, but no one shouted. No one painted words across gates. No one dragged him through town. Caleb had asked people not to. "Justice doesn't need us to become cruel," he told Reverend Knox. "It only needs us to stop looking away." Wade pleaded guilty to arson, attempted murder, conspiracy, evidence tampering, and abuse of office. At sentencing, Claire spoke first. She described the heat inside the barn, the foal's body against her knees, Caleb returning through smoke. The moment she learned Wade had seen her car and chosen the fire anyway. Then she surprised everyone. "I spent months trying to understand how a man who attended my birthdays could decide my life was an acceptable risk," she said. "I wanted him to be a monster because monsters are easier to separate from ordinary people." Wade stared at the table. But he was not a monster. He was a man who believed his goal made other people smaller. He told himself he was saving the county. He told himself one barn, one cemetery, one black man's reputation, and one young woman's life could be sacrificed for something larger. Claire looked at the judge. That is what makes his choice dangerous. Not that it was beyond human understanding, but that too many people understand it. Caleb spoke last. He had written nothing. He stood before the court and looked at Wade. "You knew this town would believe you before it believed me." Wade's eyes lifted. "You used that." Caleb paused. "You did not create every doubt people had about me. You just knew where to place the match." The courtroom was silent. "I lost work. I lost sleep. I lost people I thought knew me. Some of that will not come back." He looked toward Claire and Evelyn. "But you failed to take the one thing you wanted most." Wade's face tightened. "You wanted me to hate this town." Caleb shook his head. "I don't." The judge sentenced Wade to 38 years in state prison. Harlan Pike received 17. Martin Vale received 8 after cooperating. Travis Cole received 4 years, with part of the sentence suspended because of his testimony. Before deputies led him away, he turned toward Caleb. "I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be better." Caleb nodded. That's what the rest of a life is for. 2 years after the fire, the new barn opened. It stood beyond the north pasture, built of red oak and steel, with wide aisles, sprinkler systems, and doors large enough for every horse to escape quickly. The foal Caleb carried from the fire grew into a strong bay filly. Claire named her Jubilee. On opening day, nearly 500 people gathered at Freedom Creek. Children ran between food tables. Veterans led horses through demonstrations. Families toured the protected cemetery, where each known grave had been marked with a simple stone. A new sign stood near the creek: Bethel Mercy Burial Ground, established by the families of Jubilee. Crossing remembered. At last, Evelyn watched from beneath the oak tree. Her hair had gone almost completely white. She walked with a cane now, though she complained about it loudly enough for everyone to know she had not surrendered. Claire approached with Jubilee. The filly wore a blue ribbon around her neck. "You ready?" Claire asked. Evelyn looked toward the crowd. "For what?" "To speak." "I have said enough for one lifetime." "You promised." "I was under emotional pressure." Claire smiled. "Mama." Evelyn sighed and took the microphone. The crowd quieted. 2 years ago, she began, I believe saving Freedom Creek meant keeping the ranch exactly as it had always been. She looked toward the cemetery. I was wrong. A breeze moved through the cedar trees. Land remembers more than one family. It carries every footstep, every grave, every promise, and every wrong people hoped time would cover. She looked at Caleb. Sometimes saving a place means letting the truth change who it belongs to. Applause rose slowly, then filled the pasture. Evelyn handed the microphone to Caleb. He stared at it. I don't give speeches. You do today, Claire said. Caleb faced the crowd. Mercy stood beside the fence. Children leaned against the rails. Ranch workers, descendants, neighbors, reporters, and people who had once crossed the street to avoid him waited. Caleb thought about the night of the fire, the mare screaming, Claire coughing in the smoke, the fuel can beside the road, the red word on the gate. He thought about all the moments when walking away would have been easier. I used to believe courage was what happened in an emergency, he said. A barn burns, a horse panics, somebody needs help, and you move before fear can stop you. He looked at Claire. But that kind of courage is fast. The crowd remained still. The harder kind comes after. It is telling the truth when people have already chosen a lie. It is admitting when fear made you doubt someone. It is giving back land you thought was yours. It is accepting consequences without asking to be called a hero for doing it. Travis's father stood near the back of the crowd. He lowered his head. Caleb continued. This place was almost destroyed because powerful people believed progress meant forgetting who had been here before them. He looked toward the cemetery. Freedom Creek survived because people remembered. The applause began before he finished. Caleb stepped away from the microphone. Claire came beside him. You said you didn't give speeches. I don't. That was a speech. It was a mistake. She laughed. Evelyn leaned on her cane. A good mistake. The sun lowered over the pasture. Music began near the barn. Children gathered around Jubilee. Volunteers served plates of barbecue and cornbread. Doreen Bell led a group of descendants toward the cemetery with flowers. Caleb walked to Mercy's paddock. The mare met him at the gate. She no longer feared sirens. She no longer trembled when vehicles passed the creek road. Some scars remained beneath her coat, thin, pale lines that caught the light. Caleb opened the gate. Mercy stepped out without hesitation. Claire watched from a distance. "She trusts you," she said. Caleb rested his hand against the mare's neck. She learned to. Claire looked toward the crowd. Did the town? Caleb considered the question. Some people had apologized. Some had not. Some treated him with exaggerated kindness because guilt made them clumsy. Others avoided him because admitting the truth would require examining themselves. Trust did not return in a single moment. Neither did dignity. But children who once heard their parents whisper Caleb's name now watched him train horses. Neighbors who had doubted him volunteered beside families connected to Jubilee Crossing. The town was not healed. It was healing. "That's still being decided," he said. Claire nodded. They walked toward the creek as evening settled across the ranch. The new barn lights came on behind them. Beyond the cedar trees, the grave markers stood in quiet rows. Each stone caught a small piece of the fading sun. Evelyn called their names from the celebration. Claire turned back. Caleb remained by the water for one more moment. The fire had taken the old barn. It had exposed a cemetery, a conspiracy, a town's prejudice, and the weakness hidden inside trusted men. It had nearly destroyed Freedom Creek. Instead, it forced the land to speak. Caleb looked at the current moving beneath the trees. Then he followed Claire home. And for the first time in generations, no one at Freedom Creek was buried beneath silence.